Hello and welcome to episode 2 of my series on difficult conversations. The title of this episode could be "The Clue is in the Title." The characteristic of these conversations is that they are difficult. And yet quite a lot of the time we'll find that our friends and colleagues give us advice that implies that they're easy. People will say things like, well, why don't you do so-and-so? Or, well, if I were you, I would do this. Why don't you just be more confident? Well, why have the conversation at all? Why not just avoid it? These pieces of advice actually imply that it's easy when it's not. And when our difficulty and our struggle isn't acknowledged, it actually only increases our tension. So the implication that these things should be easy actually makes them more difficult. And I think the same often applies to trainings and courses on difficult conversations that claim, the kind of thing that claim to tell you the 5 key steps in having a difficult conversation, or the 7 secrets of successful conversation. They sound quite appealing, don't they? Wouldn't it be great if it was as simple as that? And yet, because actually in reality things aren't that simple, we're all different, we're all complex human beings, they too, I think, to end up contributing to an internal dialogue that is, I should be better at this, that makes us feel worse about having it. So I like to work with people in a way that acknowledges and accepts that it's difficult and stressful for them and that they're stuck. Stuck places are really interesting. Although obviously they're frustrating, I think they're often also the sign of something interesting and creative happening. This conversation that we're struggling with, we're struggling because there is somewhere a better, more effective version of ourselves that is struggling to come out. There's a lot of creative potential in that. And I think it's a shame to kind of cut off that creative process by simply coming in with a simple solution. So I'm interested in exploring and playing with and working with the stuckness and the thing that's emerging in it. And one of the ways in which I bring that to work on conversations is to recognize that having a tricky conversation is not an intellectual process. Our tendency is to try and sit down and work it all out as if it's a puzzle, like a crossword puzzle, that we just work it out and get enough advice we can solve it. And that misses that it's actually much more of a physical performance. And there are all sorts of physical things going on when we engage in a conversation that have an enormous impact on how it goes. So instead of trying to sit down and work out the answer to the difficult conversation, I play with people to perform different versions of it, to see conversations as much a physical performance as anything else. And by applying ideas from theatre, which is after all the area where physical performance is really paid attention to, I think we can bring a lot more energy, playfulness and creativity to work on difficult conversations. And actually move it from being a subject that people want to avoid to one that actually becomes quite exciting and interesting for people. So that's it for episode 2. I'll be exploring these ideas further in the next episode. I hope you'll join me.